396 to 13. That's the vote 4 days ago that quietly killed the one housing law Americans actually wanted. And almost nobody covered it. On May 20th, the U.S. House of Representatives stripped Section 901, the provision that would have banned Wall Street from buying single-family homes, out of the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. The same Congress that spent 6 months telling you Wall Street landlords were the problem just voted, almost unanimously, to let them keep buying. President Trump called it his principal priority. The Senate passed it 89 to 10. Then in one afternoon, with no separate vote, no real debate, it disappeared. Poof. And here's the part that should terrify you. The data shows the politicians may have actually been right to kill it, just for completely different reasons than they're telling you. By the end of this video, we're going to show you the 0.7% number that explains the entire deception, what's actually still in this bill that affects what your home is worth, and the 13 Republicans who tried to save Trump's agenda from his own party. Stay with me. Let's start with what actually happened on May 20th, because the mechanics matter. The House didn't hold an open debate on Section 901. They didn't hold a separate vote on the institutional investor ban. They voted on House Resolution 1299, brought under suspension of the rules, a fast-track procedure normally reserved for non-controversial bills, requiring 2/3 approval. House Financial Services Chair French Hill of Arkansas and Ranking Member Maxine Waters of California released a substitute text on May 15th. It surgically deleted Section 901. 5 days later, roll call 176, 396 yes, 13 no. The fight was over in less than an hour of floor time. And here's what makes the timing surgical. 9 days before the vote, on May 11th, President Trump posted on Truth Social asking Congress to pass the Senate version. His exact words, "I'm asking Congress to pass that bill, the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, which would ensure that homes are for people, not corporations." That phrase, "homes are for people, not corporations," was the literal name of Section 901 in the Senate bill. The Senate had already passed it on March 12th by a vote of 89 to 10. Trump signed Executive Order 14376 on January 20th, demanding it. The bill arrived in the House as the president's stated priority. 9 days later, House leadership stripped it out. Now, you need to understand exactly what got killed because the political talking points have been misleading on this from day one. Section 901 of the Senate-passed bill, titled Homes Are for People, Not Corporations, would have banned any for-profit entity that owned 350 or more single-family homes from buying any more. Not 10 homes, not 100, 350. The bill excluded manufactured homes. It included duplexes. It carved out 11 exemptions, including new construction and build-to-rent. But those exempt properties had to be sold to an individual home buyer within 7 years, with the existing renter getting right of first refusal. Penalties? Up to $1 million per violation, or 3 times the purchase price, whichever was greater. That's what the Senate passed 89 to 10. That's what Trump's executive order asked Congress to codify. That's what the House just deleted. Wait, it gets worse. Because the version Trump signed in January was actually narrower than what the Senate wrote. His executive order specifically allowed build-to-rent construction. The Senate's Section 901 extended the ban into build-to-rent and added the 7-year sell mandate. So when House leadership stripped Section 901, they didn't just delete Trump's priority. They deleted a version of his priority that had already been expanded by the Senate. Trump asked for a fence. The Senate built a wall. The House tore the whole thing down. If you're following the story for the first time, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. We're tracking the Senate's next move in real time, and this bill is not law yet. It could die, it could come back, it could pass in 2 weeks. You don't want to find out from a TikTok how it ends. Here's where everything in this story changes, and where the data Wall Street has been quietly filing with the SEC for the last 6 months contradicts almost every politician's talking point. John Burns Research and Consulting analyzed the exact threshold the bill used, 350 or more single-family homes, and found that those institutional investors own 0.7% of America's single-family housing stock. Out of roughly 92 million single-family homes in the United States, that's around 644,000 homes total. Even if Section 901 had passed and every one of those homes had been confiscated and given to first-time buyers, it would have closed less than 14% of the 4.7 million home shortage the U.S. Chamber of Commerce says we currently have. But it gets worse. And this is where the SEC filings come in. The three largest single-family rental landlords in America are Invitation Homes, American Homes for Rent, and Blackstone's Tricon Residential. On April 29th, Invitation Homes, the largest of the three, filed its Q1 2026 supplemental with the SEC. The filing said the company was a net seller of 222 wholly owned homes in the first quarter alone. They sold 483 homes for $206 million. And CEO Dallas Tanner said on the earnings call, quote, "We've really sort of dialed back on our acquisitions and forward commitments. We've really dialed up our dispositions." American Homes for Rent filed similar numbers on May 7th. Over 700 homes sold in Q1 for roughly $200 million, with $400 to $600 million in additional dispositions projected for 2026. And once again, it gets worse. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis and Batch data, large institutional investors with 1,000 or more homes have been net sellers for 6 consecutive quarters. They sold 5,801 properties while buying 4,069 in Q2 2025 alone. The boogeyman Congress spent 6 months promising to fight has been shrinking on its own since 2023. So when the House killed Section 901, they may have been killing a solution to a problem that's already partially solving itself, at least at the national level. Atlanta is a different story. Per the Government Accountability Office, large institutional investors own 25% of single-family rentals in Atlanta, 21% in Jacksonville, 18% in Charlotte, and 15% in Tampa. So this is a real problem in 4 specific Sunbelt cities. It's not a national problem. Now, here's where it gets interesting for your money, because what survived in the bill is the actual supply-side reform that almost no one is talking about. Section 104 expands any PA categorical exclusions for infill housing projects up to 15 units on a single site, including office to residential conversions. That's a real unlock for downtown construction. Section 102 funds previewing housing designs, what builders call pattern books, for accessory dwelling units, duplexes, and townhouses, with 10% of funding reserved for rural areas. Section 103 establishes federal guidelines for single-stair multifamily buildings up to 5 stories. The last one is technical, but it's huge. It's the reform that allows missing middle apartment construction to compete with European cities on cost. But here's the one that matters most for affordable housing, and almost no one is covering it. Section 301 eliminates the permanent chassis requirement from the federal definition of a manufactured home. The Niskanen Center estimates that single change alone reduces per-unit construction costs by $5,000 to $10,000, roughly 7 to 9% on the average single-section manufactured home. Section 302 has HUD review FHA construction financing for modular homes. Section 401 creates a pilot program for FHA-backed mortgages under $100,000. The small-dollar mortgages that have been systematically under-originated for a decade and have priced first-time buyers out of starter home markets in the Midwest and South. And Section 1001 prohibits the Federal Reserve from creating a central bank digital currency through 2030. Here's the controversial take, and I'm going to say it plainly. The supply-side reforms in this bill are real, and they matter, but they are modest. Any PA exclusions cap at 15 units. The manufactured housing reform is huge, but requires state-by-state certification before it takes full effect. Most of these provisions help 5 years from now, not next quarter. So stripping Section 901 may have been correct on the data. Institutional investors are not the binding constraint on national affordability. But the bill that's left is far short of the housing overhaul the rhetoric implies. The real binding constraint, the thing actually crushing affordability for buyers today, is not in this bill at all. It's mortgage rates. A $400,000 home at the current Freddie Mac rate of 6.51% with 20% down costs $2,025 a month in principal and interest. That same home in January 2021, at the 2.65% all-time low cost, $1,289. The Gap, $736 a month, $8,832 a year. That's your affordability problem. Nothing in this bill is going to fix it. If that take just made you angry, tell us in the comments. Were the politicians right to strip the institutional investor ban, or did they just hand Wall Street a win and call it housing reform? We read every comment for the first 2 hours after a video drops. Hit the like button if you want more videos that cut through the political theater on housing data. 396 to 13. Every single one of those 13 no votes was a Republican. Let me read you the names because they tell you exactly what happened. Andy Biggs of Arizona, Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Josh Burkeen of Oklahoma, Eric Burleson of Missouri, Michael Cloud of Texas, Warren Davidson of Ohio, Randy Fine of Florida, Andy Harris of Maryland, the current chair of the Freedom Caucus, Clay Higgins of Louisiana, Tom McClintock of California, Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, former Freedom Caucus chair, David Schweikert of Arizona, Keith Self of Texas. These are the non-centrists. These are Freedom Caucus members and Freedom Caucus alumni, the most consistently conservative voting bloc in the House. And they voted no specifically because the institutional investor ban was removed. According to Inman, all 13 dissenting votes came from Republicans who backed President Trump's call to force institutional investors to sell their build-to-rent properties after 7 years. Senator Bernie Moreno of Ohio said it directly on CNBC the day of the vote, quote, "The House basically gutted President Trump's principal priority, which is to make certain that young people have access to single-family homes to buy." This is the part of the story almost no one in mainstream media has framed correctly. The Freedom Caucus didn't break with Trump on May 20th. They broke with House Republican leadership in order to defend a Trump executive order that House leadership was abandoning. Speaker Mike Johnson posted a statement of administration policy on X saying the president would sign the gutted bill, but Trump himself did not post anything on Truth Social about the strip out. He went silent. That silence is the most interesting thing about this entire vote, because one Truth Social post from Trump would have flipped 30 Republicans overnight. He didn't post it. So the bill is back at the Senate. And here's the math problem nobody on cable news is explaining clearly. The Senate passed the original version 89 to 10 on March 12th, with the institutional investor ban included. The House just sent back a different bill, Section 901 deleted, plus a community bank deregulation title added that Elizabeth Warren has publicly opposed. To pass the Senate again, the new version needs 60 votes for cloture. Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren, the original sponsors, released a joint statement on the day of the House vote. Their exact quote, "There's still work to be done." That's Senate speak for this bill is in serious trouble. 3 things can happen now. Scenario 1, the Senate caves to White House pressure, passes the House version, Trump signs it, and Section 901 dies permanently. Scenario 2, a conference committee restores some version of Section 901 and the bill gets a third life. Scenario 3, it dies entirely and gets reintroduced in the next Congress. Here's what this means for your money, ranked by who has the most leverage. If you're a home buyer right now, the strip out doesn't really affect your competition. Statistically, you were never competing with Wall Street outside 4 Sunbelt metros. Your binding constraint is the 6.51% mortgage rate. If you're a homeowner sitting on a low-rate mortgage, your value isn't threatened by this vote. Institutional landlords are net sellers, not buyers. If you're a seller, inventory is 4.4 months of supply, and median prices are up only 0.9% year over year. The Wall Street bid some media outlets have been promising for 2 years isn't coming. And if you're an investor in single-family rentals, Wall Street's lobbyists just got the outcome they paid for. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell because here's what we're tracking next. The Federal Housing Finance Agency just released a working paper showing 96% of active U.S. mortgages are fixed rate, and the average borrower is locked in 3.24 percentage points below current rates. Every percentage point of lock-in cuts the probability of a home sale by 18.1%. In our next video, we're going to walk you through exactly which 10 states have the worst lock-in trap right now, and which 3 are about to break first. If you want that breakdown the moment it drops, you need the notification bell on. Here's the line I want you to remember. Congress spent 6 months arguing about 0.7% of the housing market, and 4 days ago they quietly admitted they were never serious about it. The 21st Century Road to Housing Act will probably become law in some form before the end of the year. Some of what's in it will help. The manufactured housing reform alone could unlock $5,000 to $10,000 per unit, but the supply problem this bill addresses is measured in millions of homes. The reforms inside it are measured in thousands. The political fight that dominated 6 months of headlines was over 644,000 homes Wall Street is already trying to sell. The last time Congress passed major housing legislation was the Housing and Economic Recovery Act of 2008, a response to a crisis already happening, not a fix for one coming. We are 18 years into a federal housing policy vacuum. Whether the Senate kills this bill, fixes it, or passes it as is going to decide what your kids pay for a starter home a decade from now. Stay with us. We'll be tracking this every step of the way. We'll see you in the next one.